All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Carmen Davailus, who is the founder and president of Doggies for Dementia. Carmen, how you doing?
Hi, great. Thank you for inviting me here today.
Of course, thanks for coming on. And we like
Yeah.
to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
For fun. Yeah. So I've been in Austin area about 15, 16 years, I guess now. And I am a photographer, visual artist, and as you said, founder of the nonprofit. And it's funny, my favorite pastime is just walking in nature, especially with my camera. It just like opens up a whole world for me.
Hmm.
And usually my dog, my husband are with me, and they're very patient. That's my favorite pastime, other than being in Hawaii, which is my favorite place.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah,
How long have you
yeah.
been a photographer?
Yeah, so I've always had the camera around my neck since the first one I bought, which is when I first finished nursing school in 1979. And but I didn't really start doing it for a purpose, I should say, or for a living until around 2015.
Hmm.
2015. And then I just my the trajectory went from playing around to like super serious, lots of practice, lots of learning. Um,
Okay. So did you like start
mhm.
taking classes around 2015 and getting like mentors and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, lots of classes, online, in person, anywhere I could. And I was just always trying new things. And there's just so much to learn too with digital. So you still have the lighting to think about, and angle, and the feel, and what you want to say, what story you want to tell with the image. And now you also have Lightroom and Photoshop, and all the other things, or not, depending on your style. And I didn't know anything about that, so I had a lot to learn. I
Yeah.
had a lot to learn. I had a good eye, so that was a great start. But I had a lot to learn about the other, yeah, technical stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, there we go. I'm
mhm,
glad that you embraced it and that you kind of
mhm.
approached it with that growth mindset, willing to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, because at the same time, I'm also learning about business, which was totally new for me too. I've been clinical and corporate essentially for 40 something years, and to learn about business and marketing and publicity and social media. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot to learn. And yourself, it changes every day. So
Yep.
to keep up with that. Yeah, so I had some great mentors and helpers, and um, I didn't even know what I didn't know. So it was easy to jump in because I had no idea.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, there we go. Tell
yeah,
us a little bit more about Doggies for Dementia.
yeah. Doggies for Dementia is a nonprofit. We're about 2 years old. So it was founded essentially right as the pandemic started, March of 2020. Although I've been doing the work for probably 3 or 4 years. And by work, I say work, but it's like the best for me. But we photograph families impacted by dementia, and usually with their family dogs. And back to that social media thing, we want to raise awareness, and we want these stories to be shared, and for people to learn what is dementia, what is this like, and really in support of those families. And what I realized is photos that had dogs in them were much more popular than photos with just people. No matter what the photos were, that image on social media with the dog, suddenly people were like, oh, look at the dog. And then they read the story. And so I thought, well, we got to go where the people are. And so I thought, what a cool idea then to include dogs whenever possible.
Yeah,
And yeah, so we gift those photos, and I learned that because I followed 13 families for about 2.5, 3 years to share their stories, and I wrote a book. This is shortly after I left clinical practice, and that's when I realized not only were we getting more candid, fun photo sessions and experiences, people stopped to read the stories, and that's what we need. That's what we want.
yeah,
So
absolutely. I love that. So do
yeah,
you
it's a balance.
think it's just the cuteness factor, or is there something else
Mhm.
going for why they
Mhm.
stop when a dog is in the picture?
Nah, I think yeah, the cuteness factor, but I think beyond that, I dogs and other pets too, but I want to say especially dogs, there's like this equalizing factor that dogs just bring this it's almost like we become children and it's okay to play and to laugh. And when we're looking at those pictures, it takes us right there with them. And then we're thinking of our own experience as well. So when, let's say you think about somebody who has Alzheimer's, maybe you can't think of a lot you have in common, right? Or how am I going to relate to this story at all, unless you've had a loved one. And when you add a dog to the mix, and if you happen to like dogs or love dogs, and suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, I have something in common with them. I love my dog too. And then it draws people in, and for the right reasons, because our mission is really founded in compassion and kindness and love. And, dogs are a big part of that. Very healing.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love that. There was
Uh-huh.
this book. It was it's a pretty well-known book. I don't know why I'm talking about it like it's not. How to Win Friends and Influence People. He
Yes.
talks about like just treat people like a dog. Treat them with the excitement that a dog has when a dog first sees the person that is like their owner.
Oh, like they do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, if you can approach people with that level of excitement, people
Uh-huh.
will like to be around you a lot more. So
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point. And then too, if you have a dog yourself, if you're going for a walk, people will stop and talk to your dog or ask you about your dog without ever asking your name, but they're excited to see your dog.
yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's a great way to be too, to people. Like, oh, I'm so excited to meet you, and
Yeah,
I
no,
think so. Yeah.
absolutely. I
I,
love it.
I think there's a lot to it, actually, a lot more than we even know right now.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree. I completely
Mhm.
agree. Well, awesome. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about your motivation in life. What gets you up and keeps you going every day?
um, well, Doggies, I have a for-profit business, which is in the right now. I do portrait photography, but during COVID, when I really couldn't be around other people, like many of us, I realized as to how many thousands of landscape, and I love flowers and the macro photography work I had, and I just really worked on perfecting that, and created a art gallery, an online art gallery, and we do shows now. And so the for-profit is Carmen's Fine Art, and I sell really beautiful art pieces that started with photography, and some of it is mixed media. I do some other things too, and so I've become this artist I never imagined being, and I love that. And so a big portion of that goes to Doggies for Dementia, and as well as my effort and time. And it's a labor of love, very much. And I'm the one right now doing the photography for Doggies for Dementia, so I'm really getting in there and meeting families. Although we are growing and looking to expand in the United States and having other photographers around the country, families are gifted the sessions, by the way, and the prints, similar to what you see right here. And for me, the perfect day is delivering those photos to families. It's
Yeah,
a beautiful thing, and getting to know them. We're sharing their story. That's a very vulnerable thing, and they're telling us about themselves and their loved ones and their journey, in hopes of that would be easier for others, um, like them. Yeah.
I love that. I have this hypothesis that I really don't think is very new, but it's new to me.
Yeah.
Just like people, we live our lives and we'll be doing stuff. We have our daily stuff that we do. But I think where we get the most fulfillment is when we are in service to others.
Mhm.
And it can be like the smallest thing ever. Like it could be like helping somebody cross the street, opening the door for somebody. Like those little moments right there, I feel like is where
Yeah.
we really get our excitement serving other humans. So I love
Uh,
that that's what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with you. I think that is what keeps things moving and moving positively. And it makes it a lot more difficult to be upset about petty things when you just recognize the miracles and the everyday kindness and compassion. Sometimes you don't even know what kind of difference you're making for people. And a lot of times it's the very small things. Even as a nurse, I learned presence, just being present and focused, and in other words, not being distracted by everything else going around, was probably one of the most compassionate things I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that for a little bit, because presence is something that a lot of people struggle with, but also a lot of people say is very good for you. So tell us a little bit about your journey with presence.
Presence, yeah. I don't know when it was in my career, but it wasn't, I mean, I knew it all along, that I'd never put it into words. And I was working on my master's, I think, and I discovered holistic nursing, which is body, mind, and spirit. And they were talking about presence, which drew me in. I'm like, what the heck are they talking about? And essentially what it is saying the greatest gift of time, but beyond time, is our attention. That and I looked at it and said, well, essentially everybody wants to be acknowledged in their own way, and at least to say somebody heard me, and you don't even need to say anything. In fact, sometimes it's better not to. It's just to be there and to give that gift of acknowledgement. And so it's so easy now. We just pick up our phones, or we get a text and we glance at it while people are talking to us. That's not presence, right? Because you're distracted and you're looking around or doing something else. Or even as a medical professional, we're taking notes. Or then when things went computer, we're trying to balance our laptop literally on our lap as people are talking, and we're looking down and looking at them. And that is not the gift of presence. And I did my best when working with patients or people who I saw in the clinic, and put the computer down, close it even, and just talk and just say, how are you? Even that simple question, how are you? And then just wait was, I was always surprised by what people would tell me. Things I never knew. Yeah.
Absolutely. Did it ever get to a point where you also practiced presence with yourself while you were alone?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a big one too, because I'm like doing two things at the same time, like almost all the time. Can you tell? I mean, I'm artist, I have a nonprofit, and I'm like 63, and I should be like slowing things down, right? And then as a nurse practitioner, all the responsibility, and even as a photographer, I'm photographing and I'm talking and photographing, and I'm doing many things. And so I just found that if I took even the beginning hours of the morning, an hour, 30 minutes, what have you, I journaled, or did my yoga or meditation, or even listened to something inspiring. And sometimes it's even while I'm doing my makeup or, drying my hair, what have you, I'm just kind of tuning into that, and just really being present with that and not thinking about anything else. So
I love it.
Yeah, now that takes practice. I gotta tell you, that's not the easiest thing to do. It wasn't for me. It wasn't at all.
Yeah, no, I'm right.
I mean, we have more distractions now probably than ever before with the digital age. We are connected, and people are expecting almost immediate responses, right? Texting and all of that. Well, there's great benefits to that, but the downside is then we are always connected to others, and not simply connected to ourselves. And I think that's what you were referring to. Like, how do you connect with yourself? How are you really feeling? What do you really want? And even when I was thinking about leaving or kind of retiring career and doing something else, the first time I looked in the mirror and said, what do you really want? It just made me cry, because I hadn't ever really asked myself that. like, what did I want? It was like, well, the best thing, I was a mom, single mom most of that time. I'm like, well, what's the best thing for my family, for my son? What's the best thing for it? But not for just me. If I could do anything I wanted, what would it be?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I was, in my 50s.
yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not alone. I'm not
You
unique
aren't.
in that. No, no. And but it was a great question to ask because I hadn't thought of it. It really took me maybe a week or two just thinking like, I let me just toy with the ideas. What do I want?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it's
yeah.
that kind of both being present with yourself and asking yourself that question, what do I actually want?
Hmm.
It's easy to neglect because, in the 7 habits of highly effective people,
Hmm.
Covey talks about the quadrants of kind of like activities, and some are like urgent and important, others are
Yeah.
important and not urgent. And I think that's a important, really, really important activity, but it's not very urgent because nobody really holds you accountable to it.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. And everything else it just runs all over you kind of because it has to get done or they're needed versus wanted. Right. And we were talking like, what do you really want? Not what you really need. Although perhaps it should be, what do you really need? What do you really need to be fulfilled
Yep.
and happy? And ask it in that way. It's like, oh, it is it's a basic spiritual need to be fulfilled.
Absolutely.
And how do you do that? And sometimes, I mean, that doesn't mean necessarily a career change, right? It might be something else that's, some other form of fulfillment. And finding it, everybody has their own answer to that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hmm.
And it's typically the smaller steps. Like I think a lot of people get
Hmm.
paralyzed when they think I have to go big, I have to change all my
Yeah.
relationships
Hmm.
and my whole career. It's like, no,
Yeah.
take 2 minutes a
No.
day.
Yes, that's exactly right. Or journal and or whatever. I mean, a big Audible or audiobook fan, so it might just be, hey, I'm really reading 2 or 3 or listening to a book a week, or
Yep.
maybe 4 books a month, and that's 4 more, and that's fulfilling to me. Or it's small things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some things we just don't think about it because they're small, so they don't seem like they're important. Or maybe greeting the neighbor like we do their dogs, with the same excitement that we do their dogs. Maybe it's
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Carmen, let's go ahead and jump into your dreams and goals now. Tell us about your vision for your
Mhm.
life and your companies.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, we love to travel, and which is great because I've been able to incorporate the art gallery with the travel. So I do, travel photography, but cool places and flowers from all over the world, which is wonderful, especially now as things are opening up. So that's really nice. Doggies for Dementia, it's, like I said, we are looking to spread across the country, and we're looking for other photographers and even people who maybe were like me back in 2015, who are big hobbyists, but who want to learn more. We're putting together the orientation program, and we're all really just about set for that. Because the vision is to raise awareness and to really make a huge global impact, kind of like what you were talking about, changing the world. We're like looking to change the world one image, one story at a time, and we need to offer beyond Texas. We're a
Yeah.
big state, and I have traveled. We've been to Georgia, Florida, New Jersey. I've done photo sessions around the country, but the time is to have others do that on our behalf and representing us, and so that we can continue to share those stories. I think that's the only way we're going to have a real shift in the stigma for those with dementia.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
And what would the time commitment look like for a photographer that wanted to work with you guys?
Oh, not a whole lot, honestly. It depends how much they want to do. So it's a matter of them saying, yes, we want to, and then we'll put out there for families in the area so that we can meet those needs. And if they say, well, I want to do one photo session a month, that's what we'll get scheduled, and
There
we'll
we go.
just, step at a time. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So growing Doggies for Dementia and
Mhm.
continuing to travel and doing your travel photography.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big one.
Love it. Are there
Mhm.
any other dreams or goals that you want to chat about?
Yeah, my personal vision is for Doggies for Dementia to continue on long after I'm finished with my work with the foundation. I got it started and love it very much, but we're really working hard just to be sure that it's long lasting. And yeah,
Absolutely. So that
yeah,
legacy piece.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure one day I want to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
For sure.
yeah. Hmm.
Sounds good. Well,
Yeah.
what really caused you um, to kind of finally come to that question of what do I actually want
Mhm.
and then go after it?
Yeah, I think, I was I working in the clinic, and I work with families impacted by dementia, and there wasn't a lot to offer as far as medicines, and there's no cure. And so it was a lot of family support. And I was very fortunate where I worked. I was given plenty of time to talk with families and to support them. And I just remember thinking somebody needs to tell these stories, because when we hear of the challenges, the profound challenges, and then the triumphs and what people do and just the resiliency, I just thought, the world would be a lot less petty place if we could hear what others are doing and doing it well. I mean, it's not easy, and they walk the dark night for sure, but what they do with that. And so somebody needs to tell these stories. And then one day it just hit me. I'm like, I really need to tell these stories. And I just couldn't imagine doing it without photos. And so once I decided to do that is when people were telling me, they go, well, writing a book is one thing. Have you ever spoken? I'm like, oh, I'm really shy. I don't think so. I've spoken at professional conferences. That's different. I'm like, well, you need to speak. And what about this? And what about that? And it was mind boggling. And I mean, I could have written 3 pages of things that I could have or should have done, or that opportunities, and people just come out of the woodwork with opportunities, some really great and some I should never listen to at all. But I didn't know. And that's when it got to be overwhelming with that. Then I'm like, wait a second, what do I want to do?
Mm,
That's when that happened. Mhm.
there we go.
So yeah, yeah. And then it got really clear on what really got me most fired up. What did I really love to do the most?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
And
to
back to
hear it.
fulfilling, right? Yeah. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, if there were one or two people that you could meet right now, and this could be a
Uh,
specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take the next step toward your dreams and goals, who would they
mm,
be and how would they do it?
People, let's see. Um, you know, I'm trying to remember her name. How could I forget? She's really big. Um, she's all I could think of is Arnold Schwarzenegger's ex-wife.
I have no idea who that is, unfortunately.
Oh, oh my goodness. I'm just gonna kick myself for thinking about it. I can see her face and everything. She's of the Kennedy family, and I think it was her
Maria
mother.
Shriver?
Yes, Maria Shriver, exactly. Thank you. And she's very she's a founder of a nonprofit and does the tremendous work. Of course, has a huge platform. And I would just love to sit down and just absorb some of that, her genius. She's
Gotcha.
really an amazing person, and does amazing work too. Yeah,
There we go. And what
yeah.
are the most important one or two things that everyday people can do to really help you achieve your dreams and goals of growing doggies for daycare and with your travel photography?
Yeah. So Doggies for Dementia. Yeah, easy. That one is really
I'm
easy for
so
people.
sorry that I just
You're
messed that
close.
up.
That's okay. Yeah, the simplest and free thing is to follow us on social media, especially Facebook and Instagram, and share those posts. because and those stories, because you just never know who of your friends and followers are in need of hearing that, because a lot of people struggle with learning how to be a caregiver, or they see their family members who are declining and maybe there's a dementia and they don't know where to turn, and they don't know even where to begin. And they'll do that in silence because there's such a stigma. So I say, if you just share, you're gonna reach people who really need to hear that information. And we offer quite a bit of resources and people who do great things, and we really support the families in that. So that's one thing, is social media for sure. Follow and share.
There we go. Follow and share Doggies
Yeah.
for Dementia.
Yeah. And look at that. It's free, right? I mean, we need funding. We need donations and sponsorships, corporate type things as well. But that one is an easy one.
There we go.
Yeah.
Also, I want to formally apologize for messing that up.
It's okay. Listen, you got my last name right.
There we go. There we go.
Yes.
I haven't been saying that the whole podcast, have I? I've been saying Doggies for Dementia, right?
Yes, you have.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah. You must be thinking about daycare.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, now we're going to jump into our Thriving 3. And the first question is, what is your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Well, I'll start with the book that was most inspiring to me as a young woman, and it's Marianne Williamson's A Woman's Worth. And she wrote about how a lot of women think, and we just, especially, this is probably in the 1980s, so we've come a long way. We have a long way to go, but just our thinking of being kind of underlings, and not using the power that we have, or not even recognizing it. And it was highly motivating to me. And I started reading some things like that. My son was just born, or before that, and I thought, I want to be the best mom I can be. And I was just reading and learning, and I stumbled across that one, and I thought, oh, this is really important. And it has remained one of my most inspiring books ever. And I got to meet her and tell her so that was really nice.
Oh, that is awesome. I know she wrote that poem that I think is just epic. Yeah. It's like our greatest fear, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. That whole poem. Yeah. So good. So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, what is one way you like to take care of yourself?
Walks in nature. That's my favorite thing. Give me flowers. And I can just tell you now, I can go to the grocery store and buy flowers, and just photographing them, getting really up close and doing beautiful soft pieces. And that, to me, I mean, what seems like 15 minutes to me, I'll look at the clock and 2 hours have passed. So being around flowers, nature, definitely, usually with my dog, Sparky. So
there we go. There we go. And what is one action step that you can take right now, or continue to take if you're already doing it, to meet Maria Shriver?
Oh, well, I am I'm connected on social media as best as possible. And, I'm always out there looking for where she might be speaking and things. And she's a huge inspiration. When I wrote my book, she had written, and I followed like how she got the message out and things. And I think, we do travel in some of the same circles, especially with the dementia work. So I'm sure one day our paths will cross.
There we go.
Yeah.
And we have one last question for you. So you know how there are people on the planet that have a really fixed mindset. They're not willing to accept help. They're not willing to accept change. Sometimes they'll live their whole life like that, and sometimes they'll die like that, unfortunately. Other times, they'll make the switch to more of a growth mindset, willing to accept help and willing to accept change. In your opinion, what is the catalyst that causes that switch?
I think for most people, unfortunately, it's like something really tragic. It's like forced on them. A death, or death of a relationship, a divorce, or serious illness sometimes will do it. And I also think I believe in this. This is part of why we do it. Is a story that we read or hear that just touches us in such a way that there's no going back. There's just no way to ignore that pull. If that's what happens, with death or illness, there's just no way you can ignore it, right?
Yeah.
You can't ignore that. But I think there's other ways too.
Gotcha.
I think stories are a key thing.
I completely agree. I keep hearing about storytelling as, it's such a natural part of our life. We don't realize all the places where we are doing storytelling. Like every time somebody comes on this podcast, they're telling the story of their life,
Right.
And you're reading a book, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, they're telling the story of something. It's like, every time there's a story involved. So
it's everywhere. You watch TV commercials, there's stories. They're telling the stories with images and video, and photographers are really visual storytellers. Every image rightfully should tell some story, and as a photographer, I learn, like, what's the main character? What do I want to say with this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess my follow-up question is, what do you think is the differentiator between people who have a really, really tragic experience and they kind of freeze in that trauma, or they come out and go to more of that growth mindset?
Well, I think some of it is timing. I believe that we're all on our own path, so to speak, right? And where our timeline might feel really urgent, like I really need to make a change, I need to make it now. And other times the thought is, I can wait on that and just kind of ponder. And I'm not so sure that's always wrong. I think that just might be their path and their way of getting there. It might just take a little bit longer. Look at you said what, 22, 23?
22, yeah.
23, yeah, and you're doing magnificent things and using media and getting your points across and changing lives, right? And I didn't see that, or how I could even be a part of that in a global sense, until I was like 57, 56, right? That was my time. And a lot of the things weren't available to me before, but even if they had been, I'm not sure my mindset would have been there anyway. And that's just my timeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, Carmen, is there anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
Oh gosh, we talked about some big things, huh?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. No, I would love to hear more about you, but I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Carmen, sounds good. I thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. And if I could just remind your listeners to find Doggies for Dementia on Instagram and Facebook. And when you see responses and posts and all those kind of things, it comes from right here.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So you write me a message, you will hear from me.
Love it. Well, if you guys loved what Carmen had to say, you loved her story, you loved what she is doing, make sure to go follow Doggies for Dementia on social media. All of the links will be in the show notes. And yeah, if you guys are listening to this and you really loved it and want to share it, make sure to send it to 1 to 3 people, as we always ask. And let's go 2 to 5 for this one. And
let's do.
There we go. And send them over to Doggies for Dementia. As we always ask, send this podcast. Oh my gosh. I am just butchering this ending. As we always ask, shoot us a 5-star review on iTunes. Send the podcast to 2 to 5 people. And on that note, we're out.